Okay, alright.
Welcome back to the Make Lemonade podcast, a show brought to you by Lemon Squeezy, as we hope to inspire you to make money from your own lemonade stand. I'm one of your co-host James, and I'm back here as always with JR Farr, who is the co-founder and CEO of Lemon Squeezy. And today we're back with an episode of our Project 100k series, which is all about my journey as a creator, going from 0 to 100k selling through Lemon Squeezy. I've been a podcast producer for years, but would like to stop trading my time for money and find a way to build an asset that makes money for me while I sleep. And in this episode, we give our first update on the progress I've made on the name, positioning, course outline, and distribution. Jay, are you excited to get into it?
James, I have been dying for this second episode because here's the thing. I want everybody to know this. I don't know anything yet. All I know is that I've been publicly and privately calling your ass out to you actually do this. And so I am so curious to see what you've come with today.
Okay, well, I could either wow you or disappoint you. I'm not sure.
Okay.
All I know is
Pressure's
the last
on.
couple of weeks have been crazy. I managed to get stuck on an island on the British Isles.
What? Wait. Yeah, hold on. You got to tell me. So sorry. You have to tell me this.
Well, we were due to record last Thursday, and I was like, JR, I should be back, but I've flown over to this small island. It's not actually on the British Isles. It's nearer France. It's called Guernsey, and I was doing a podcast recording there. And when we arrived, we were meant to be flying back the next day, and we went for dinner for the guys that were hosting us and said, oh yeah, by the way, did you bring an extra pair of pants? You might get fogged in. I was like, what, fogged in? What does that mean? They said, well, sometimes the island gets all this fog around it and the planes can't land. They can take off in it, but they can't land in it because they can't see the runway. And these like tiny little propeller planes. So we go to the airport and we can't get home. And I'm like, shit, I got to do an episode of Project 100k with JR. So I messaged him. I'm like, dude, I'm really sorry. I don't think I can. Obviously, it's on an island, so the Wi-Fi is not very good. I don't have my setup. So I turns out we were stuck for another day.
Wow.
Fortunately, we managed to escape, but it was just such a weird feeling just being stuck on this weird little island.
Holy cow.
But yeah, well, that wraps up like a month of traveling, almost like a side quest trip. I think I've got one more, but then aside from that, I'm just going to be.
You have been. I
traveling
mean,
for
you've
fun.
been LA and yeah, you've been all over.
I have. Let's get into talking about this podcast course, and we'll kick off with the name. I think we'll kick off with the name and the domains. So I think I can share my screen with you and we'll sort of go through everything.
Well, and I think part of this was some of my feedback where I know the idea is the 2-hour podcast. I think my feedback was if you could kind of expand a little bit. I felt like this whole 0 to 100K was selling the course, but also utilizing this work as a feeder to consultancy work, bigger clients you might want to do. You know, there's a lot of legs I think this could do if you could open it up a little bit.
Yeah, so on expanding the 2-hour podcast idea, I've pretty much gone from the 2-hour podcast, it's too narrow. I feel I want to teach people how to podcast from the start, not putting any limitation on the time. I want people that are coming into creating a show because they want to create something that is awesome. They're willing to invest the money and time to create it. So this is going to be an academy, a school, a university, a masterclass, whatever you want. It's going to be all my knowledge to take someone from novice to maybe knowing a little bit about podcasting to launching something truly fantastic that is going to be a success. Whereas 2-hour podcast was more like a mini course with an angle. So on the positioning, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to like package this up.
Yeah.
But the name I was hoping to go for was Pod Academy. I liked Pod Academy, but here are the other ones that I was sort of looking at in terms of the domains that are currently either parked or really pricey. So podacademy.com, $25,000 at the moment. Podcastacademy.com, $8,000. Podcaster Academy is currently parked. The Podcast School parked. Podcast Launchpad parked. Pro Podcast parked. Podcast Pro, Launch Your Pod, all of those parked. Podlaunch.com, quite like this because launching a podcast, that was 100k.
Wow.
Podcast Launcher, 4k. podcast mastery I quite liked. I follow a course called Notion Mastery, so I thought that might be good, but I don't know if I'm really teaching someone to be a master of podcasts. It's launching something that's good. The dream domains, the Aaron Francis type podcasting.com or podcast.com are owned by Amazon and Global. So as much as I would love to do that, I can't quite. And then in terms of the ones that were available to buy as .coms, startyourpod.com, creatorpod.com, launchypod, prolific podcaster, bit crappy. So with all of that, JR, what are you thinking?
Let me put it back to you real quick. So out of these, what's calling out to you? What do you like? What do you feel like you can get behind?
Pod Academy, but I really feel dodgy launching without a .com.
Do you really?
So yeah, would you? I think
if something existed, there, I could maybe see that. I don't think it's the end of the world, to be honest. But if you like it, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world if you really like that name. I think, you could go with more of the generic, like Create a Pod, which isn't terrible. But I feel like with Pod Academy, I mean, if you really like that name, I feel like you could maybe come in and take over this name.
Because the .com's available. It's parked, and
so if it works out, you want to buy it. I mean, where was that at? Was that at GoDaddy for $25K, or did you reach out to them?
No, I reached out. It was on a I submitted $500.
Yeah, so I bet you could knock them down too.
Yeah. It's just whether or not do I genuinely want to spend. Let's say if I knock them down to 5-10K.
No, right now. And this is the area too where I think right now in this episode, you just make a decision. Just pick one and don't think about it anymore. Just say, whatever, I'm going to go with this. It's not the end of the world. Name is just a name. I think the bigger thing was just trying to get you out of the narrow, because I think, again, it's not just like a feeder for consultancy. It's also like you can build like how to edit the podcast and how to make the thumbnail videos, how to make shorts with your, in YouTube, to like, there's so much you can do with this thing. So I just think you just expand it, just pick one.
Yeah. So I want it to be quite comprehensive rather than a 2-hour podcast, which was quite limiting. And with the research I've done on other podcast courses, I can show you the ones that I found that existed. You've got Power Up Podcasting. There's a few Udemy ones. There's Skillshare ones. Podcast of Paradise was kind of a weird positioning, but this was maybe closest to what I might think of doing. But I don't like to see anyone, from what I've searched so far, JR, that is doing this as a business where they are teaching you to go from not having a podcast to launching something really good that you can turn into a business. I've not seen that. Like, I haven't either. Packaged up really well yet.
I think if I had a gun to my head right now and I had to pick, it's Pod Academy. I wouldn't worry about the .com. If it blows up and you want to buy it later, that's awesome. And I would go, just because of looking the research really quick. There's really not somebody owning this right now. I mean, even this Pod Academy one that's out there, I mean, this looks like it's hardly really touched. So I think you're good to go.
All right, so we'll go with Pod Academy and work with that. Great. I hate getting caught up on domains.
Yeah.
Once you've done with it, just like decide and move on. Like, this is your name. That will now become the name that you choose. I think it's really nice. This is going to be the Academy for Learning. Now, the next thing I had to decide, JR, is what type of course was this going to be? Was it going to be a self-paced or cohort? What kind of thing am I going to go for? And I've had a few chats with a few interesting people throughout this period. I also put a tweet out about this, and this tweet I put out, let me share it with you. Did you see this?
No, I don't think I saw this.
Okay, so I put this out. I said, I'm guilty of buying courses and never finishing them. Some I never even start. The only ones I've made it through are cohort based to have some sort of deadlines or assessment. What are some sort of courses you found useful or made it through the whole thing? And JR, if you look through all of these responses, the sentiment is quite interesting. I really don't finish courses very often. I put this in a community as well. Some people were saying, do you really have to make it to the end of a course? Some people have been saying, I do it to make myself feel better. But the general consensus was, you need something to sort of push you through this course. If you're going to pay for a course, you need something to guide you through it. Because self-paced is just really hard. The other thing was like, oh, I just go to YouTube. I'm not paying to learn a specific skill. I'm like, cool, right. You're a specific type of person. I'm still going to cater for you with YouTube content. But if you want to be guided through this process of from not knowing anything about a podcast to launching your own one, I want to be the course to do that. And I don't know if self-paced is the way to go. What do you think?
So it's interesting because now that you just said this, we have a guy, Michael Rittering. He started Figma Academy, which is funny because now you have Pod Academy.
Yeah.
But he was very, very cohort based. He called them enrollment periods. And I think that like he actually has start dates. I think that what I like that he did was he has this time box thing, which is 4 weeks. It's $899. And you learn alongside a community of everybody else that's in that cohort with you, plus James is there doing all the live sessions. But he also has a self-serve one. So if you want to just go off to the side and do it your own, but then I also think what he does smart is he also have teams. So you can sign up like a whole team that wants to learn, how to do all this. So I think you should take this example and do the same thing. I think that you should go, I love the idea of cohort-based. You're such a good, you can keep people's attention. And I think you know so much about this that people are going to really, really enjoy this. But I like the idea of like this escape hatch where it's like, I just want to come in and do this. I got to get going. I just need someone to help me figure out how to do this real quick. Like, I just want the cliff notes. Just let me fly through this. So I love that approach, the hybrid approach.
Well, JR, as you can see here, I have written this down almost in this exact way.
There you
where
go.
I've got Pod Academy Express. This
Love
is the
that.
self-paced lessons, $279. You're going to get everything in here. I will tell you my thoughts on pricing and how
I hate the
might
pricing
adjust this
right now.
Thank you. This Pod Academy Express is your self-paced. You pick this up and you go through it.
Love
Hold on, look, you'll like this now. Is that better?
Yes. Yes. Better, closer, warmer. Yep.
Yeah. So, this Express self-paced lessons, this will be if you want to come in and you don't want to go through the cohort.
Yep.
But I strongly believe that people should go through the cohort because as my learning experience, when you have sort of the assignments that you go through and you're doing it with other people, I'll tell you this one course I did that I finished, the one and only one. It was a Casey Neistat one on a platform called Monthly, now called Studio, and it started on a specific time. I could go ahead in the lessons if I wanted to, and you could only move through, like you could only actually get complete if you'd sent what you'd done that week to your peers and got it peer reviewed. And it just made me do it. I was like, right, I don't want to fail this. I paid my money and I want to succeed with it. So I'm thinking, with Pod Academy, if I can get people with every week of the lesson to actually submit some kind of assignment that I either mark or I look through, and let's make it really small for the first cohort, say 10 people that I guess I beta test this with, where each part of this curriculum I'm getting them to send through an assignment. So we're making progress. We're not spending this money and not having something at the end of it. So that's sort of where I'm at.
I love this. Have you thought about the size of the cohorts?
Yeah, I thought 10 for the first one. What do you think?
And then what would you do moving after that? What's the size of a cohort after that? What's an ideal size?
I don't know because I'm not too sure how that first one will go.
I worry that that's too small. I think you could. Yeah, I think you should go for bigger.
I think I want to limit to 10 for the first one because I want those people to almost be beta testers. Okay. This is the first run.
Well, because another approach you could do is you could make the price lower and just get more people. But yeah, I think that's fine. I think that makes sense.
And when it's tight knit, I can have a relationship with each one of the 10 people, and then after I've done that, I can say, right, this worked really well, this didn't. I can expand that, and if I keep the price at that level, that's still going to be like a good amount. So for anyone looking, the price I've put down for this, $279 for the self-paced lessons and $699 for the cohort. Yeah. Because generally, of the ones I've looked through, they are priced similarly to this in terms of self-paced value and the cohort based.
Yeah. I mean, you could make an argument that, I mean, that could go up once you figure it out. I mean, that could go to $9.99 just for the cohort one. I mean, that's pretty exclusive to get access to James teach you how to do a podcast. So, in my opinion,
well, I need to try and calculate the value that people will get out of this at the end, because if they just have a podcast at the end, what is the value of that for them? If they can actually start making money from it somehow, then they can put an immediate ROI on it, right? So if I start my podcast and once I get it to 500 downloads after the first 2 months, then that James has taught me, then I can get sponsors or monetize it in a way.
I like that. But personally, and actually you tell me if you think I'm wrong here. I think the ideal customer for this is somebody that works at an organization that needs to do a podcast for someone.
Okay.
Or they're working at companies like, hey, let's start a podcast, and they want to learn how to do this. I feel like it's more people like that are like want to go through this. Like, I just need to figure out how to launch and do this the right way so I can make sure we actually are, so yeah, we should talk a little bit about the ICP, just like that ideal customer profile, of like who that is. And it's okay maybe to have a couple that you're thinking of, but it's going to help the landing page of how you communicate to these people of what they're trying to do. So maybe we can do some research on, who's more looking for these. Is it the person that wants to do a podcast and have it be they have a show, or is it someone that wants to build it for something larger for the company? But
with that rationale being that the company would pay for the course rather than the individual.
Exactly. You could it's an easier sell, and in that sense, the self-paced one could be more for the indie person, and the cohort-based someone within a company. You have a B2B customer in my mind, which is a person that works at a company that's trying to do this, and you have the B2C, which is the self-serve model.
And when you said that it could be someone, when I do the cohorts, it could be just the one cohort be a company, and I could run that sort of whenever someone wants to get in with it. Cool. All right. Well, that's really useful in terms of pricing. I did start doing a bit of competitive research on other courses, which is courses that aren't in podcasting, to sort of see how people were positioning and pricing their various courses, if they were cohort based or self. Aaron Francis, man, that is such a lovely landing page and positioning. I couldn't find any other that I liked as much as I did Aaron.
It's so good.
Which he does self-paced for $2.99. His one-liners I haven't managed to figure out a one-liner for my course yet, but his effortlessly creates high-quality screencasts faster than ever. Boom, perfect. That explains it. Okay, I know I'm going to create high-quality screencasts, and I'm going to do them fast.
One thing you could do is the self-serve could still be that, something around a 2-hour podcast, but then the main channel could be around basically everything you need to build, a podcast. But yeah.
Curriculum? I don't know if you want me to go through this.
No. This is like the meat and potatoes right here. I think this is like the thing that, like, especially when we talked to Aaron Francis with screencasting, like it was interesting to dive into like the curriculum, because I think this helps set it up, but it also kind of sets up, like, I could see this thing being one of those things for you, James, where it's, where do you stop, right? Like, this thing could get so big, right? Because I think you do want to leave some room for when you get into the editing. I really think that some people might like to script, some people might like Adobe Premiere, some people might like ScreenFlow, and I think those are things that in the future, James, as you add curriculum, there could be a la carte upgrades where it's like, I just want to learn. I want you to go as deep as you can in Final Cut Pro, So, but yeah.
So the way I've written this, I've kind of taken what I've done time and time again, breaking down the process of starting a podcast, and just sort of updated it with my current thinking, and tried to think about how these would work as individual lessons, because some people might be coming in at like a slightly different point throughout this. So I think most people need to come up with a good idea and premise for their show, and I think a lot of people fail to create a good podcast because of this. It's their idea is just the same as everyone else's. There is no unique spin on it, everyone is doing an interview show at the same length, at the same frequency. What can you do to change it up? I'm surprised at how much I enjoy shows where they add some little spin on it, they add a segment, they change their length. I'm like, I really like that because I know exactly what I'm getting, rather than just another interview show that's exactly the same.
Do you think the medium in terms of delivering the content will be like audio and video and text, or how do you plan on delivering the content?
Video.
Only video.
Only. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I didn't know if you wanted to have like inside of the chapter, it was like at the top, it was like, okay, chapter 1 is ideation and premise, right? So you have, here's the big video, this private listed YouTube video or something, I could imagine. You're walking through how to do this, but below it, I didn't know if you wanted to support it with any sort of
I mean,
text
to be quite honest, JR, I could probably do all three, because I'm not like Aaron France. I'm not going to wing it. I'm going to script every episode. I'm going to read it from a teleprompter. The video version will be supported with graphics that help it, or if I'm doing screen
well,
recordings.
I mean, you're pretty regimented with like your Notion stuff that you do too. So like, I would imagine that it's like, okay, for this chapter, here is the, what would you call it? Like the resource or the action thing that you got to do with the assignment. And I could imagine you building. Yeah. That's why I was asking if there would be, things you can access or read through.
So each of these lessons will have an assignment to it.
Okay.
There will be, you have to do this to move on to the next stage.
Nice.
Because I don't want people falling behind.
Yeah.
So when it comes to ideation and premise and deciding all of these things, there is a document, a form thing even, where you can write these things in, or it be a Notion template where you add in the stuff that you need to for this, and then you send it to me and I'll just go through them and check that everyone's added, and then I can add feedback, because I do this all the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting to see what new ideas people are going to come up with, and sort of help guide them towards something that's a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So
I like this.
So yeah, you've got the ideation and premise, branding. I'm trying to think about like the way I order these.
No, this is great.
And I was sort of thinking of where to put them and how I break down the lessons, because there is a point in the middle where it sort of goes off on a fork, where the lessons you are learning for a remote recording are different to an in-person one, for a video podcast versus an audio podcast. And sure, JR, I could go down one thing and I say, yes, you need to do a video podcast. This is what I'm going to be teaching you. But ultimately, I think that is a decision that I think video podcasts are kind of needed if you want them to grow. But if you, there is a special place for audio only podcasts.
Absolutely.
The Acquired Show is an audio only podcast. How I Built This is an audio only podcast. And these are fantastic. And I'm not sure they necessarily would work as video pods.
Yeah. I think that's great.
So you have these lessons specifically on video or not video, me explaining my rationale, and then you can decide which either 4A or 4B you watch, which is the gear for audio you need or the gear for video you need.
Nice.
Of course, don't buy Yeti.
Which is big. I mean, because even just on the video side, right? The setups, the camera, the lighting, all the things that you need to buy, like that's really valuable stuff that you've kind of trial and errored of, like, if this one works, this light's good, Yeah.
Well, I'm quite excited for this video gear lesson, because I'm going to hire someone to come into my recording studio that I record my in-person pod, and I'm going to do it behind the scenes of me setting up all the equipment, how I set it up, what I use and why, and then like give you some alternatives. So instead of just like flashing up on the screen, you'll see exactly how I'm setting everything up, the way I'm doing it and why. So yeah, there's the gear. I love all the gear. Software is going to get its own thing, because software, you can use some, you can negate the others. This is a decision that you've got to make. I don't care what software you end up choosing,
sure,
but here are the options. Here's my affiliate link for all of them.
Nice.
So there will be just one software lesson. Watch this, learn the software, choose what you want. Assignment, choose your software.
Hey, James, real quick on just monetization with software. Like, is there any decent payouts with any of those, like hosting or anything like that? Do you know?
I think Transistor's quite tasty. I get a couple of $100 from them every now and then.
So what would be interesting is like if they signed up using your affiliate link and came back with a receipt, they would get access to some sort of bonus material or something. It might actually just be a nice way to get some bonus. Because I know like in the hosting days, I mean, a sign up sometimes would pay, like you said, any $100 to $250 for one sign up. So you're talking about you're going to make $699 on a course, and then you can, you know what I mean? Yeah, you got this captive audience that you can, it's not a bad thing that they're going to sign up anyway. So
that's a great idea. Like I'm also thinking about how I can actually have a conversation with some of these tools in terms of partnering further and having more than just an affiliate relationship.
Yep.
Because tools like Riverside, Descript, and Transistor I use heavily. I'm going to give you the option for the others, but these are like my recommendations. And if I can find a way to direct everyone that takes these course to using these 3 tools and get a nice kickback from it, what bonus would I give for people?
I mean, as part of it could be like a special, like, I mean, if you really wanted to, I mean, you could say, when it's all said and done, get 30 minutes with James, right? So you have they have a special Calendly. They can book some time with you to say, okay, I'm done. I've gone through the course. This is my thing. Is there, can you quickly review this in 30 minutes and give me any feedback that could make this even more successful? Like that could be a thing, if you get, depending on what the CPA is or what you get paid, but you're trading your time for money there, but it might be worth it,
Okay, so you've got the software, potentially figure out a advanced affiliate situation there. Then we go into our planning and prep for the episodes. This will vary depending on what type of show you do, how you prep it, how you script your episodes. It's quite straightforward to do, but I feel if you skip it, it makes your episodes so much harder. Your intro, outro scripts. And then 2 additional separate lessons for those that are choosing guest episodes. Landing guests, how you do it, how you craft good, how not to do it. Cool, I see some terrible guest outreach and guest pitches, so how you do that. And then research your guests, man. Come up with some interesting stuff. Listen to some shows they've been on. And I guess people can choose to do these if they're going to do an interview show. Then we get into recording. 1 remote, 1 in person. If you've chosen to do remote or in person. This is possibly the easiest thing at this point. You plug everything in, you press record. If you've done your planning right, if you've done your prep, the recording should go pretty easily. Then you get into like the next big section, which is editing.
Yeah, this is big.
There's a whole lesson on organizing your files once you get them out.
Okay.
And then your editing lessons. I think I might do an individual editing lesson for each of these tools. Or maybe start with 1 or start with 2, the 2 that I use to script and Final Cut Pro, and then maybe build these out afterwards.
I like the idea of doing them all, but you probably want to start with a few.
Yeah, because I've kind of got to learn these a little bit more versus the ones that I know in and out. And then an editing tips and tricks, which is just going to be, no matter what tool you use, here are some things to look out for that I have learned over the years of editing that I even get frustrated when I'm listening to podcasts and I hear them not take this little edit out. So there's your editing tips and tricks. Now publishing, getting set up. It's weird that this is coming after like producing your show, but you kind of need to have something produced before you're set up. And then it's the publishing, your titles, your show notes, your transcripts, your YouTube thumbnail. Thinking about this, I might separate publishing audio.
Oh, and then make it more like promotion. Video. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And then promotion, a whole lesson on clips.
Yep.
Clips are the way you get distribution now. You got to do your clips. I may have to bring someone in who is better at clips than me. I can show you how to do them basically, but I might have to find someone or partner with an agency that does this really well because it can be time consuming.
Yeah.
I know a way of doing clips that I enjoy consuming and I know how to create, but sometimes you want to go up another level for this.
Yep.
And then more on other promotion, you can sort of see it kind of stops here, because at this point we've made a show, and that's what the point I want to try and get people to. So this like additional content, this is your blogs, this is your newsletter, this is your tweets, so on and so forth.
Yep.
There is a system you can use to get this stuff, and Descript makes it really easy to find those things that you want to write about. And finally, monetization. I think people should monetize their shows no matter how. I think if you can find a sponsor that works well with you as a creator, you should 100% do it.
Yeah.
If you love that product, if your listeners, your niche you've chosen also will like that product, go for it.
Does this get you kind of fired up?
Yeah, dude, I love doing this.
Yeah,
I sent you a
feel like-
message saying how excited I was.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, yeah, this is a really good outline for a curriculum. I know there's a lot more depth. I know I can appreciate some of this work that you do, like the editing piece. I know you're going to go pretty deep in that one. So this is, I don't know. I think this is really, really good. I think this is like a really, really strong foundation for you to build something pretty amazing.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we just, it's hard to,
Yeah.
you can see that I get excited about talking about all
Well,
of
and
this.
I think this is the thing, right? James, you're good at what you do. You're an expert. And so people want to do that. I think where the name, the landing page, the positioning, we've got to get right for you. And then it's all about just your distribution. How do you get people to continually be signing up for this course? You've got to find some channels, which I know you're going to get into here with the marketing, but that's probably, it's not, I guess what I'm saying is it's not going to be a lack of a really, really nice product. It's going to be, we got to make sure to help you get the distribution going.
You're right. And actually, you'll see when I go into some of this marketing stuff that it might not be as in-depth as it could be. Because this is the one thing that I'm kind of scared.
Yeah.
So before we go into that, the additional part of this course for, I don't know at what level of the sign-up I'm going to put it into, but are the workshops and masterclasses. This is bringing people in who are an expert in a specific field and doing an hour-long workshop with them. You've got Harry Morton, who runs Lower Street. I want to pay all these people to do these and talk to Harry about how he specifically runs a podcast agency, what his shows that he produces are doing differently to everyone else. Josh, my buddy who works a lot on Descript, maybe someone from Descript, on this is like a 1 hour masterclass on making the most out of it. Chris does a lot of Transistors pods. He is a pro at editing audio. He knows everything there is to know. I want to put that in a workshop for people that specifically want to come for that thing. Matt Medeiros, Jeremy Enns, who's a pro at podcast marketing. So these people who just have more niche knowledge than me in a specific area, let's bring them in for a workshop that is included in the course.
James, this is brilliant. I think this is amazing. So are you saying that if I buy the $6.99 or the $2.79, these are bonus material that gets included that I can access in a section of when you deliver this? Or do I need to pay for this? Or I would imagine these are just going to be one-time recordings you do privately with these guys and they'll be available when you buy the course. Is that how you're thinking about doing this?
Ooh, good question. I don't know.
Because I could even see on the landing page, like, here's everything you get, and it's like there's this bonus section and you have all of these guys' picture or the logo. So it's like you have what's his name? Josh, right? And then there's the Descript logo, and here from like here is the Descript masterclass. That comes included, completely free. Like,
yeah,
bonus material, and you're gonna watch an hour breakdown of everything you need to do for podcast editing with Chris. And that's actually really cool, is like that makes you very, very different and more value. Okay,
so maybe this could be I was going to say a middle tier, but that I don't want people to then drop out of the cohort base because of it being a middle tier. Like, you've got that, the self-paced, here's just the video lessons, you can go and learn this stuff. Middle tier plus the masterclass workshops. Top tier is the cohort base plus the workshops. Or I keep it as the two, where you've got just self-paced, that's what you get, still super good stuff, or the all-inclusive package where you get these workshops as well, which might bring people from the self-paced to the cohort.
So yeah. I mean, you could test it. I don't mind I don't mind it being in both, because you got to remember too, the self-serve isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you're not having to trade all of your time for money. You're going to have to be involved in all those cohorts. Yeah. So it is kind of nice. And I think, James, this is a really, really good idea. If you pull this off and you get all this recorded with these guys, and there's like, shit, I might buy this course.
Well, I'd hope so. Do you have any indication of how much I might pay these guys for this?
To be honest, I think some of them might just do it as a favor to you. Yeah. So I would start there. I would say, hey, I'm building this course. I would love to feature you. This is gonna be exclusive. There's only 6 or 7 spots. It's an hour time to feature you and your world-class expertise here. Would you be willing? I would just start there. If they say, yeah, I don't have time. Otherwise, it's like, okay, what if I paid you, $300 for your time for an hour? I don't know.
Cool. Yeah, I think you're possibly right there.
Yeah.
All right. So that's naming, domain, curriculum, and some of the research I've done on other pods. Let's talk about marketing, the bit that you're good at, the bit that I'm kind of a bit scared about. I have a lot of content that I want to make for this. A lot of stuff that I want to put on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn that are separate from the course itself. This is like an overview of the script, the mics, an overview of how to start a podcast, the recording setups, why you shouldn't buy a Blue Yeti, comparing the recording platforms, starting a podcast for free, the Notion system for managing a podcast, why we need to ditch the interview podcast. All of these things that I think I can teach people, these free mini lessons that I just need to execute and record the
I love it. I think I call these breadcrumbs. So you kind of breadcrumb this content, and it leads to like the bigger, where they can take the bigger bite. And you kind of, I think what you have to do is this is really, really smart. I think when you be very strategic with your hook, right? Like you're doing the jab hook thing, right? So just when you're jabbing them, just make sure you have a hook in here, which is like, hey, look, I'm James. I'm the founder of Pod Academy. I'm giving you, this is just a taste. If you want to get if you're really serious about podcasting, buy my course. I'm there. I teach you live, or you can buy it and go buy it by yourself. However you want to do that little spiel. But I wouldn't be afraid to ask in these little snippets, because I imagine these would be, even if they're a 10-minute video on how to edit a podcast in a script, that's awesome, man. And I think you should keep it very high level. So you can always be like, hey, I go into this way more in depth. This is just high level overview, beginner kind of a thing. But I love this from an SEO standpoint. And it's sitting in an area where, like a medium that you're really good at. Like, for example, just to contrast, Lemon Squeezy. I've said this a million times. We could be on YouTube. We could be on LinkedIn. We could do paid search. We could do SEO. We could do Twitter. We could do TikTok, Instagram. We could do all of them. We chose Twitter, right? Like, we just wanted to own our space in Twitter because of our resources. So for you, I think it's like either you have this on podacademy.com, where you're recording these videos and they're available there, plus YouTube. So you kind of have just like that channel where you're getting the SEO benefit from YouTube and Google. That could be where James plays. Or, and then you kind of drip it out with a newsletter and tweets, but that is like James's arena, right?
I agree. I'm planning to operate actually on YouTube and LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's going to be a big place for me, because that is just a dormant platform that is just sitting there, that I think there are a lot of podcasting people that, or like companies that want to start a podcast, and I can help them out with it.
Well, I like that. I think if you, so I guess your delivery though of the content will just, I'm assuming it will be James, the video, like it'll be 3 tips to make your podcast better today. And it's like, boom, boom, boom. And then you go and send that out. Like, I think if you can have this, like this arsenal of content that you can feed and get it loaded up into like some scheduler, we can talk through this. This is kind of some of the stuff we do at Lemon Squeezy, but yeah, if you can kind of get this in a process, because what will happen, James, if you don't do this, you'll go film this and then you'll post it once and then your content will go to die. And so you know what I mean? You'll have like a really, really good week, and then then you won't do it again the next week. And then before you know it, 2 months go by and you haven't done anything. So we got to build a process around this.
What are you saying? That's not me.
It's everyone, man.
No. Part of the plan with doing this as well is not just waiting till I've made the course and then launching it. So I'm going to get a landing page live as soon as I can, which has an email sign up box.
Let's write this down. Let's open up distribution plan. Let's write this down. This is what you need to do. Yeah, we're going to get the landing page. Yeah, this has got to be number 1 right here.
I've written it down. Look, landing page will be live with positioning and modules before even starting the course.
Okay.
Waitlist, not pre-sale.
Perfect.
This is a waitlist, and then this will turn into, here you go, look, launch landing page and collect emails immediately.
There you go.
First collection will be initial interest. I will then switch it. Instead of being initial interest, it's going to be a 30-day launch plan, right? Little drippy thing. This is...
and motivate you to get it ready. Yep.
Exactly. And then then I can launch the actual course to the list that I built up, which is going to have been from a few months of making this content.
Okay.
That is going to be.
We should have that in there as the, like, whatever you want to call it, the breadcrumb process. But like, let's get like a section in there where we actually build out the process around how you distribute this content, so it's steady Eddie. I think this is good. We'll break this down. Like, even the getting landing page live is like summarized in one, but just offline we can even work through like headlines, subheadlines, positioning, just little tricks you can do on the landing page. You can increase conversion, stuff like that.
Cool. All right. Well, that's sort of what I've done over the past couple of weeks. How are we saying? Are you disappointed or impressed?
I'm impressed. The only thing I'd like to challenge you on is just, I'm not too sure in your mind about how you're time boxing this, what the time frame is. Do you have milestones? When are you trying to get the landing? You should probably take a second after this just to start to say, okay, realistically, how quickly can I get this landing page up? How quickly can I get my email list growing? How quickly can I get some of this content made? When and how do I get all the curriculum done? So you got a lot, but you know what I mean? So, but I think if you can kind of just milestone it and just break it up in chunks, it won't feel so overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So
I agree. Cool, man. Well, I've really enjoyed this episode. I hope people have found it useful. It's been fun to see on the first episode how people sort of bought into it and were encouraging me and pushing me on to do it, and those that are in a similar position.
Pod Academy.
Pod Academy.
Okay, all right.